Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss another aspect of the channel, and that is what role I hope it could serve in this general election. So I was in London earlier this week. It's always very harrowing. Visiting Google, I was invited to attend a civics event with other YouTubers in the field, but also, and this actually surprised me, a load of people from other organisations with an interest in YouTube. There was even someone from Ofcom there asking questions. Lots of people, all with a different interest in this huge platform. So what's my interest, at least as far as this channel goes? From the start, the channel has been building up for something, and we're at one of those points now. Mind you, when the moment arrived, it caught me a bit off guard. But since the last election, I now have greater reach, which can hopefully help me to be useful during this election campaign. So what's the difference I want to make? Well, I want to encourage people to vote in several stages. Register to vote. First deadline is going to be for that, 18th of June, register to vote. Make sure you have valid voter ID. Get postal voting if getting voter ID is too much hassle. There are deadlines for all of these things coming up. Then consider the best way to use your vote if you're not particularly partisan. Rinse and repeat with the non-voters that you are close to as well. You know, I tried to push a similar message in 2019, the obvious exception of voter ID, which wasn't a thing then, but I couldn't get through to enough people. Frankly, I still wouldn't be able to get through to enough people to have turned around that car crash, but I can get messages out to more people now. This election could be historic. It might not be. It's so finely balanced. Not the headline result. The news on July the 5th will be a landslide Labour government and Keir Starmer returning from the palace as Prime Minister. Although it's a particularly momentous event when it's been so long since we've had such a welcome change of government, at least from my point of view, it's not really enough to make it historic. To qualify for that, something has to be fundamentally different this time. The Tories could easily get away with a 1997 style drubbing. This is now made more difficult with ways Rishi Sunak has behaved in the last 24 hours. But it's in theory that could happen. And that'll be good, but nothing special. Or they could be all but wiped out and not even leading the opposition. That has the potential to lead to fundamental changes in politics. And the difference that I want to make is to increase voter engagement. I've no influence on politicians in any party, or no more than anyone else who just gets involved with their local party. But although politicians know nothing about me, quite a few voters now do. The numbers change. But if you take unique viewers from the UK from my analytics, in a typical 4-week period, you divide it by the 650 constituencies in the UK, I get through to an average of 500, 550-ish people per constituency. Small fry compared to the total number of voters, which will be in the tens of thousands, but not nothing either. And I would like to use that to reach out, to encourage more people to vote, however they vote, but also think more about the process and what it means to them. Many of you will already intend to vote if you're watching political commentary, of course you will, but you will likely know people who won't. Now, I would encourage you to encourage them to vote. When I was young, there was a public information advert which tried to explain the importance of politics. It featured a couple of characters, one of whom said they didn't want to talk about politics, but every topic they did try to talk about, their friend would say, that's politics. Because everything is politics. The groceries you can buy, the price you pay for them, the ease or difficulty with which you can travel around your town and your country, your working pay and conditions, how your healthcare needs are met, how safe and welcome you feel in your community. It's all politics. The Tories are even trying to make having a piss outside your own home political, which hasn't been a thing since Victorian days. Everything is directly affected by how the country votes in elections. There is no such thing as an election where the outcome doesn't make a difference. That is what some want you to believe, because they benefit financially from people believing it. But it's not true. It wasn't true in 1997. When Gordon Brown became Prime Minister after Labour had been in power for about 10 years, he famously rattled off a massive list of Labour achievements. What achievements can Sunak point to? None. 5 prime ministers, 0 achievements. That's why he's trying to tell voters to ignore the past and focus on his promises for the future. Like 14 years of a Tory government simply never happened. It wasn't true that things wouldn't be different in 1997, and it's not true in 2024. Just think about what giving the Tories a chance in 2010 did. Austerity, Brexit, the stripping away of civil liberties, many workers having their pay rolled back 20 years in real terms, falling behind on our net zero ambitions, a level of pollution in our rivers which means historic boat races have had to be called off. Hospital and school buildings literally collapsing with no plan to rebuild them. Victims of serious crime being failed because courts have been closed and police numbers are cut back. Worse now, police have been told to stop arresting so many criminals because the prisons are full. No dentists, so find yourself a good pair of pliers. The military being massively scaled back just in time for the first land war in Europe for generations. And a government who have allowed the progenitor of that war to infiltrate our politics and financial systems. I could go on. 14 years of a complete lack of progress. Even Tory shill Laura Kunsberg last weekend had to point out that the average life expectancy is actually slightly in decline in the UK. And it could all have been avoided if more people engaged in politics. I appreciate that people won't engage to the level I do. I have an unhealthy, nerd-like interest in politics. When it's working well, it's too boring for most people. When it's not working well, it's too depressing for most people. I understand that. But if I could just encourage people to at least understand that the process matters and that they matter in the process. That's what I would like to do. Make politicians afraid of more people. I'd like people to matter more with proportional representation. But people still matter even with first past the post. Most, even large majorities around the country can be wiped out by the non-voters if they turned up. There wouldn't be half as many safe seats if more people understood the collective power they have. So now one of these big moments has arrived. What I aim to do over the next few weeks is explain these processes. Some are straightforward, some are not. Some people know nothing about the process because there are too many people in the mainstream politics and media who prefer it that way. One thing I learned at the YouTube meeting is that they are taking misinformation really seriously on this platform. They're going to be jumping on misinformation and amplifying good information to make sure people aren't tricked into, for example, thinking that their photo ID is valid for elections when it isn't. Because there's going to be a lot of misinformation about what you need to do for the election, particularly susceptible to people who haven't voted before. They might be vaguely aware they need voter ID. There's photo ID. Oh, I've got photo ID. That's fine. Oh, yeah, that's fine. No, it's not. Very few things are fine. So it's about making sure people know where to go to check that list. So YouTube is actively helping people like me when I present factual information and squashing down on those who will attempt to give incorrect information, at least as far as their systems can manage. When a general election rolls around, we all have this tiny window when politicians fear us. Some don't. Some are arrogant and think that we will vote for them anyway. We have the opportunity to punish them for their hubris. But for the rest, we have this one opportunity to talk to them when we know they will listen. Once the election's over, some MPs still listen, some don't, but the power generally fades away quite quickly. So we should make the most of it. A general election is a very brief window when we have the opportunity to let politicians know that actions have consequences. And I want to talk as we get closer to the day about how we do that as well. Because if we don't use that opportunity, they will proceed as if there are no consequences for their actions. I think the last 14 years should have consequences. And I'd like to help people make the most of it. And because I've built up the channel, when I publish my series of advice and guidance videos this time, they'll get more views than they otherwise would. Those sorts of videos won't get as many views as my normal content, but it'll get more views than it would have done if I'd have never built up that content. I'm hoping it will encourage people to act, not just for themselves, but to share the message with others as well. That is the power of social media when it's put to good use, particularly on a platform which is invested in building a reputation for respect for the truth. It bypasses the filters of media owned by and run by those who profit from the status quo. But it takes work. I don't have money to throw at this, so I use time. And I have used time over 5 years. And so have many others. I'm just going to be one person who's been getting ready for this. You know, despite growing this channel, I can't shift the needle on my own. But with others who've also been preparing, pulling in roughly the same direction, that can make a difference. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.